Chandler Jones gave us 5 sacks in week 1. He's got the Vikings coming to town this weekend for the Cardinals home opener. He said today, Myles, I play my best when not thinking about my contract. Now, he was one of the hold-ins who would periodically not practice, and though sometimes he did. He's one of the few that didn't get a contract. All the other ones, most of them, except Stephon Gilmore, who's still on the physically unable to perform list, they got the contracts. Dwayne Brown, Jamal Adams, Xavier Howard, TJ Watt. But here's Chandler Jones. I play my best when not thinking about my contract, and that makes sense. Because if you think about it, if it gets in your head, you start thinking, I could get injured and never get the security that I'm striving for. You have to find a way to forget about it in order to be effective, because so many athletes will tell you if you start worrying about getting yourself injured, you're halfway to getting yourself injured.
Well, yeah, and look, I mean, he sure as hell wasn't thinking about that contract on Sunday. I mean, from the first play, he goes out there and he's hitting Derrick Henry for a tackle for loss for 3 yards. And then I think on that next drive, he goes in there and nobody's blocking him on a bootleg, which that is just bad scheme. And then he hits Ryan Tannehill and they end up basically going for a touchdown, or at least it was ruled a touchdown. And then I think that it was taken off the board and then they scored a touchdown anyway to the Arizona Cardinals. So look, if that's what he says, that he's not thinking about the contract when he's going out there, then fine. And look, this is one of the most impressive stat lines that I feel like you're ever going to see from a defensive player, when it's not just the sacks, but it's also the tackles for loss. I think anytime we're talking about 5 sacks, that's ridiculous in and of itself. But 4 tackles for loss, especially against a guy like Derrick Henry, means to me that you were prepared, you were ready to go, you understood what it was that they were trying to do offensively. And man, I don't really know what else you need to see from a guy like Chandler Jones to then say, yeah, we should probably pay him if we are the Arizona Cardinals front office.
Sims and I talked about that play earlier today when the entire Titans offensive line goes to the left to set up the play action as if it's going to be a run to Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill peels back out. Well, Chandler Jones didn't buy it. He stayed home, stayed disciplined, didn't start crashing toward the other side to try to get to Derrick Henry and maybe seal off a cutback lane. He went straight up the field and got to Ryan Tannehill and created havoc. But you're right, first play, tackle for loss on Derrick Henry, 5 sacks. And at one point, I saw this, and his teammates were doing this, that he is thinking about his contract after he got his 4th or 5th sack, Myles. And how can you not? How can you not? But you can't be obsessed with it. Chris Sims tells a story about Brandon Marshall as he was in the final game of his contract years ago when they both were with the Broncos. And Brandon Marshall didn't know how he could go out and play, knowing that he's 1 game away from getting to the point where he can become a free agent and make significant money for himself and his family. And if he suffers a serious injury in that game, he's not making that money. So it is a real concern in an inherently physical sport where the risk is always there of an injury that will alter your career. You need to push as much of the financial risk arising from injury onto the team as you can. But Jones still hasn't gotten what he wants, and he got off to a great start of the 2021 season. We'll see what he can do against the Vikings, whose offensive line is still a little spotty. Their offense is not as good as it needed to be, and Chandler Jones and the rest of that defense ready to wreak some havoc. And that defense, Myles, you know, Kyler Murray's the headline coming out of that game. Offensively, defensively, yes, it's Chandler Jones, but the entire unit looks like it could be pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, Isaiah Simmons, no relation, I thought had a really, really good game there. And, you know, that's one of the things that they definitely needed from him, was to take a step forward. And so it can't just be Chandler Jones and then you add, you know, an older J.J. Watt, somebody who's probably on the back 9 of his career. You need those guys that are already there to start stepping up. Budda Baker, another good game from him. I mean, there's a clip floating around today on social media of him just absolutely embarrassing Taylor Lewan. And I mean, look, Taylor Lewan went out and he put on social media, you know, I got exposed and I've got to be better and all that. And I know Lewan's coming off that ACL, but my gosh, when you're getting embarrassed by a guy that's that much littler than you, Man, that says something about both of those guys, I think. But you know what? Right now, the Cardinals should feel really good about themselves going into week 2. They played a really darn good game.
I now see the genius of the Taylor Lewan tweet. He preemptively posted that he got his ass kicked by Chandler Jones, so we would see that and say, yeah, okay, you're right, and we wouldn't notice that the smaller guy put Lewan on his ass. And when you've got size and leverage, and sometimes, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. It happens. But it sure looks like Budda Baker overpowered him. That was something. There's the tweet. So in hindsight, yeah, he should have put Budda Baker on there too. I think that was a genius deflection move by Taylor Lewan, so maybe we wouldn't notice Baker putting him down. Because that first sack wasn't on Lewan. He was on the other side of the field. Chandler Jones was rushing over the right tackle. The right tackle didn't even try to stop him. He sprang straight through and made that sack. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.